Have you joined us, and we have already in the studio our guest that will do justice to the papers that we will be reviewing this morning in the person of Dominic Okabwe, a public affairs analyst.
Yes.
Good morning, Dominic.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
As we do, we begin with news making rounds on ABS websites, and that's the first part of what we're doing this morning before we begin to talk about the national dailies. And the first story we have this morning for you is Soludo inaugurates Nzam Road project. Also, we have Anambra State Police Command intensifies onslaught against cultism and illicit drugs. Anambra State Assembly cautions Onitsha South Council Chairman against encroaching on private property. Anambra Guba, INEC asks CSOs to intensify voter education. Anambra State Assembly calls for removal of unapproved speed breakers on roads. Umoji Progressive Movement asks Anambra government to stop town union election, seeks constitution amendment. Tinubu suspends emergency rule in Rivers State, footballer orders return. And last but not the least, suspect in 2007 disappearance of British toddler Madeleine McCain freed from German prison. That's all we have for you from ABS websites this morning. Quickly, let's delve into the stories as we begin to talk and delve further in. Anambra Guba, INEC asks CSOs to intensify voter education. I think for the next election is going to be the nearest election that INEC has actually to work on, and we are not seeing enough sensitization. Even the news that we read here, we've not even heard, as in the papers we've been reviewing in the past weeks, we've not heard the total number of people that have registered in that 1 week continuous voter registration that happened in Anambra State. But we are seeing 4.5 million in 4 weeks happening in the southwestern part of the country. Dominic, will you say that INEC is not giving Anambra that necessary update on voter registration and their preparedness, but they are telling us the numbers they are gathering in Southwest? What's your take on that?
You see, the civil society organization has a lot of role to play, towards our voter education and sensitization. Unfortunately, most of them are not living up to expectation. I recall that a few months ago, INEC, had a consultative, meeting with so many civil society organizations where
even
issues,
stakeholders, with even journalists
and some of the issues were, discussed. Is issue that has to do with partnership, how they can be of help to sensitize people, especially in the rural areas and even in urban areas. Well, and the budget were made in this regard, but the effect is not felt in our various localities. Then coming to the issue,
why you're talking about this, I want to ask the primary responsibility of National Orientation Agency.
Yes.
I don't know whether civil society organization has taken
over their role.
Yes.
And you see, that is the same thing that we're talking about. This is supposed to be their role, okay, amongst other responsibilities. But they are not living up to expectation. And that is why INEC has adopted alternative measures, because they are organized government agency that has to, that is saddled with this responsibility. But when you look at what the operation, just like SEMA, MEMA, you understand? Most times it is called that they are shying away with their responsibility. Then you see civil society organization playing that role. So when they come, they will now realize that their job is likely going to be taken over by some other agent. They wake up. So it is a general problem. Yes, the National Orientation Agency is supposed to be the one that will take over this mantle, but they are not doing it. That is why INEC has extended their tentacles to reach out to some other civil society organizations. they're performing very poor in this regard.
All right, another story from that platform says Soludo inaugurates Nzam Road project.
Yes, I target politics of development. Yesterday, the governor and his team was in Anambra West. Let me call it a day visit to Anambra West. He stopped over at Miata. He even participated in their daily market,
Okay.
where he commissioned the Nzam, the Miata Nzam Road, 33 kilometers. When he was campaigning in 2021, he made a promise that he will construct that road. Of course, that road is an inherited project from his predecessor, Chief Dr. Willie Obiano, Apokodike Global. He built the bridge, but couldn't extend the road to Anambra West. And it was a terrible experience going to Anambra West. It will take you like 2 hours, a journey that is supposed to be 10 minutes. So Governor Soludo, in his magnanimity, and his belief in, this philosophy of continuity of government, came up with, that road and extended the road to Nzam. He discovered that when you get to Nzam, you cannot have access to the local government secretariat, the headquarters of the Anambra West local government. And he also awarded over 1 kilometer of road and took the road to the secretariat. Today, you can drive from Miata to the secretariat, but before now, you cannot access the secretariat using, your vehicle. It has been a very negative experience. Okay. So he didn't end there. He discovered that most of the buildings there are both antiquated and dilapidated. And in his wisdom, he believed in this policy of one people, one Anambra, and one agenda. He saw the need to also construct a befitting secretariat for them. It is also part of the project he commissioned yesterday, a very magnificent edifice. So I call it a day within the Anambra West.
All right, we pray that it continues that way, even after he left office, that subsequent administrations will look at the needs of the people and do something, because that's the essence of governance.
Absolutely.
Let's move on now to the papers we have for today. We take the Daily Times and Daily Sun at the same time for want of time. On the front page of the Daily Times newspaper, we have questions on negligence raised as fire exposes UBA's fatal safety gaps. As I read this, I said, is it just UBA's office? They should look at other offices. Now, Keyamo says over 95% Nigerians fly foreign airlines in absence of national carrier, including Keyamo himself. All right, insecurity, 420 Plateau communities attacked in 24 years. Report at 84.26% students score above 5 credits as NECO releases 2025 SSCE result. Nigeria, one of biggest beneficiaries of Brexit, UK envoy speaking. And we also have this story of a 24.6 trillion naira pension, 3.3 trillion naira insurance asset demand, together safeguards stakeholders. Okay, that's the much we have on Daily Times. We move on to the Daily Sun newspaper to see stories there. Fubara deputy lawmakers returned as emergency rule ends. Tinubu lifts state of emergency in Rivers State, calls for peace, democratic governance, tension as Ibas 8 revolt over unpaid allowances. Dangote refinery rebuffs Dapman's 1.505 trillion naira subsidy demand, vows to defend position. We've seen the report of NECO release. And of course, other stories from the Daily Sun read, Enugu seals a 100 billion naira pact to revitalize Songhai Heneke farm. Drug trafficking, Saudi Arabia frees 3 Nigerian pilgrims. Federal Inland Revenue Service, Hayes Holdings, Mon staff lost in Lagos fire. Okay, that's the much we are trending. Now let's look at that issue of Lagos. Questions on negligence raised as fire exposes UBA's fertile safety. You know, that story or that what happened in Lagos is a very pathetic one. People that came to work like every other person. I'm going to work. You tell your family you're coming. Well, of course, the family know they are coming back at the end of the day, waiting to welcome their dad or their brother or their sister, only to be met with, you know, report of their death.
You see, first is to sympathize with the victims.
The families affected.
Yes, and may their soul rest in peace.
Amen.
Having said that, I think that is where we are still lacking behind as a people. Yes, fire incidences, accidents, it can occur at any time. But the question is, how prepared are we as government, as corporate bodies, or as members of the society to, to prevent it, or to bring a measure towards
emergency response
yes.
to the situation.
That is the problem. You see, that is the difference between
all eyes will be on that particular incident now,
yes.
And no effort will be made to maybe check all that things or use that particular incident
to avert future.
Yes,
that
future
is the problem
because it is not the first time.
You see, in this part of the world, we always believe in blame game. Instead of looking out for alternative measures to safeguard future occurrences. Yes, had it been, we have a very robust approach, a very systematic way of preventing fire outbreak. The damage wouldn't have led to this extent. Government should try to put measures in place. Corporate bodies, should also provide measures.
And I don't know whether you watched the video to see the style of evacuation, emergency evacuation.
It was a terrible experience, which you cannot even wish your enemy. So it is unbearable. It is irreparable. Very unfortunate. May their soul rest in peace.
Amen.
Okay, quickly, there are 2 stories here that I want to tie them. Then let's see before we go to the next papers for review. Nigeria, UK, 16 trillion current trade value, highest ever. The question is, Dominic, who is benefiting more in this 16 trillion trade? You understand? This 16 trillion naira trade between the UK and Nigeria, because this is coming from the UK envoy.
I think they equally wrote it.
You understand? Who is benefiting?
There is one thing you must understand about the relationship between Africa. Let me use Africa as a continent before we can now particularize it on Nigeria. The relationship between Africa and the West has always been parasitic and not symbiotic in nature. Of course, whatever you are doing with them that does not, benefit them more cannot work. And that is what we call neocolonialism. We have advanced, we have gone beyond that normal colonialism.
The one where they
yes, because it is obvious and because it is something that is widely condemned. So they are using different strategy.
Economics now.
Yes, economic way, whether directly or indirectly. They adopted this style of economic policy, which I call neocolonialism. There was never a time our relationship with the West, has ever benefited us. they must use, they must find a way, you know, to detriment our economic prosperity. That is the best way to answer that question.
All right,
because if you dig further, there was an article I read not too long ago where Nigeria alone has contributed more than 10 billion. You understand? In a particular period, $10 billion, pounds, to the economy of Britain in just the education sector alone. We are not talking about health tourism.
Yes.
We are not talking about people that are going there for conferences, for business deals and the rest. Just education. I think with the period of 3 to 5 years, Nigeria has contributed 10 billion pounds
to the
economy. So now we are saying this 16 trillion. Now, some people in Nigeria will be saying, okay, fine. The benefit of Tinubu's movement is yielding. I'm sure that's the reason why this thing is on the front page of a newspaper. That the movement of Tinubu is yielding benefit. But now you need to dig deeper and know who is actually benefiting.
Is it a credit?
You understand?
Is this in our own best interest?
Yeah, exactly. That's
the question.
That's what we need to.
All right. The story of Fubara, deputy lawmakers return as emergency rules end. Now, Tinubu lifts a state of emergency in Rivers, calls for peace, democratic governance, then tension as a bus 8 revolt. I saw that video yesterday. I don't know.
Okay, you're leaving office. You have not paid a salary.
After 6 months, they say he's suffering. They were just suffering there.
There's this quote that the worst form of democracy is better than military rule. The worst form of democracy is better than military rule. But let me face the issue of Mr. President announcing that he has ended the yes. You see, what happened in River State is pathetic. It is too wrong cannot make a right. Yes, we commend Mr. President for not extending the military rule, and that is not to justify the legality of what has happened. The illegality remains an illegality. You see, what happened in River State, has continued to generate a sad feeling, especially when you look at the circumstance that led to the emergency rule in the first place. They always cite Section 305, subsection 1 of the Constitution, 1999 Constitution as amended, especially when you go to subsection 1C, D, subsection 1C, D and E. If you read that section very well, you agree with me that that circumstance that led to the declaration of state of emergency ought not to, happen in the first place. But it has happened. Now, what we'll be saying is who lost and who won. Fubara lost in all ramifications. Remember, it was during this period that election was conducted in the 23 local government area in River State. And APC won 20, leaving 3. Okay? Who lost? The governor and PDP. A state that was under the control of PDP before now is now under the control of the APC. Because he who controls the grassroots has the monopoly. Because everything boils down to the local government. Now they have changed the instrument of power. And I believe certain conditions were given to him before the political solution was announced. Because as far as I'm concerned, what happened was a political solution. And it cannot stop future occurrences. I had expected the Supreme Court to hear this matter and make pronouncement on that matter. Because as it is now, the fate of all the governors are still hanging. A minister can be powerful in your state, and before you know it, he will influence Mr. President to declare a state of emergency in your state. But had it been this matter went to court and the Supreme Court made a pronouncement, it becomes a law and a precedent and safeguard against future occurrences. But it was not done. So I believe Mr. Fubara lost in all ramification as it went in favor of Nwike and APC.
Okay, let's continue the review by delving into the next papers we have to talk about this morning. And that will be the Punch newspaper, that's next. And then we have emergency rule, winners, losers as Tinubu reinstate Fubara, with riders there saying, our president justifies action in over 40 court cases pending. Cautions governors on good governance. We're yet to see that. Wike, rivers will henceforth witness peace, progress. That's the prophet speaking there. 6 months wasted, rivers elders lament. At the mast, we have federal government, state, local government share 2.2 trillion naira August revenue. That's coming from FAC. And then we have cash transfer. Federal government pays 330 billion naira to 8.1 million households. Well, Noye, you have to show me the evidence of receiving that. UK, Nigeria bilateral trade hit 16 trillion naira. That's coming from British envoy. We've talked about that. SSCE, NECO probes mass cheating in 13 states. I was about saying, what happened to that 84%, case of students passing the exam? And now we have protests, thousands protest in London over Trump's visit to the UK. Our federal government returns history to basic school curriculum. I think we need to look into this. 7 victims confirmed killed in Lagos building fire. Our federal government votes 300 billion naira to power teaching hospitals and varsities. That's interesting. Quickly, let's see what the Nation newspaper has for us this morning. At the mast, we see Adeleke reject calls to join Aregbesola in ADC. Wow. $3.14 billion agri investment to boost food security drive. 10 dead in Lagos, Ariland towards fire. Supreme Court strikes out Ajayi's case against Ayedatiwa. And that's what you have there. You have also here, Arraign IPPIS official plead guilty of diverting ex-workers' salaries. That you find in the Nation newspaper, page 8. Fubara, Amawule, and other lawmakers back in office. Well, let's see how effective that's going to be. Tinubu calls for peace as 6-month emergency rule ends. Grand reception awaits governor. Also, still there, FAC disburses record 222, is that 222 or 2.2? Okay, 2.22 trillion to federal government, states, and councils. APC not part of early campaign, says chair. Trump's UK visit attracts pomp and protest. Edun, we have given 330 billion naira to 8.1 million vulnerable households. Distribution based on World Bank data.
Where?
You need to tell me. You need to tell me. You understand? That's all we have here. And then okay, when we talk about a government that is handling towards building an economy in the region of $1 trillion in the next, I think in the next 4 years, thereabouts, or the next year even, $1 trillion. Would that government rather not invest in what would generate money and get Nigerians employed, rather than this doling out of 330 billion to 8.1 households, and Noye is telling me that she didn't receive any.
Don't call Noye.
You understand? So what's your take on that?
You see, that has been the problem with Nigeria.
Remember the name of that former Minister of Finance?
Yes.
That woman?
Yes, the one that was later. But let me tell you something. According to Achebe, in one of his books in 1986, he said the problem with Nigeria is fairly and squarely that of leadership. when you have a misplaced priority, it will lead you to failure. And the worst part of it is that there is no available data to show
This vulnerable
the distribution of such amount of money to vulnerable Nigerians. The issue is, how do you determine who is vulnerable?
And now they are starting school feeding again.
You understand? These are ways of stifling funds.
They are starting school
These are
feeding
ways
again.
of mapping out funds for the next election.
And I don't know the schools. Does it mean we don't have schools in this part of Nigeria?
Okay.
Because I don't know any school that have benefited here.
The question is, how do you define who is vulnerable? What is the model of distribution? Because as far as I'm concerned, I think we have so many vulnerable people in Anambra State. I have not heard of anybody who benefited.
Now you're talking. They say the distribution
is based on World Bank
data.
Where do they collect the data? Where was did they call a meeting? Through which channel?
And who is even vulnerable?
When
what do they mean? What do they mean by vulnerable?
How do they determine who is vulnerable? So I think the best way to answer that question is that we have leaders that have continued to misplace our priority. And that is why we are facing this kind of economic doom we are facing. Instead of looking inward to draw a master plan on how to advance our economic prosperity, we are running the country into deficit through
employing people and all whatnot.
So it's unfortunate.
Okay.
Okay, let's continue with the review. Next is The Guardian, and then The Tribune and Blueprint. Quickly, let's see what we have for you on those papers.
All right, on The Guardian, we have doubts, uncertainty in Rivers part. Sola Subara returns. We can see pictures in front of the paper where our president is busy signing. Green cap on green pen. That's a wonderful one. All right, we also have other stories there on the polls. Supreme Court dismisses appeal against Ayedatiwa's victory. We also have Dapman Dangote Bika over diversion allegation, 1.5 trillion naira subsidy demands.
Yes.
A World Patient Safety Day. Lagos State government bemoans wastage in healthcare delivery. FG says 330 billion disbursed in cash transfers. Okay, we've seen that. Okay, the money is even in billion. Okay, over 60% of candidates pass. Okay, we've seen that. Let's quickly move to the next paper, the Nigerian Tribune. Rivers emergency rule, we've seen that. Okay, Saudi authorities free 3 Nigerian pilgrims arrested for drug trafficking. Also, 2027, despite endorsement, Tinubu must emerge at convention. Uwata, APC national chairman, denies INEC's claims of early campaign, says ADC not an organized opposition. Okay, they will tell us what they are. 60.26% of NECO candidates, we've seen that. So, Ondo PDP candidate Abola withdraws Supreme Court appeal against Ayedatiwa. Okay, that's just about it. Now, on this Federal Inland Revenue Service month's death of 4 staffers as Delumelu pays tribute to fallen UBA staffers. That means that building was not just for UBA.
Yes.
It's like other offices there.
It contains so many offices, including the staff of Federal Inland Revenue Services.
The 4 of them.
Yes. So that was actually what transpired. And that is why you see Dangote extending his condolences to the body. Do you understand? Moving over to a story that has to do with 1.5 trillion naira Dangote and marketers. Do you understand? The Depots and Petroleum Price Marketers Association of Nigeria, DAPMAN, you know, they are having issues with Dangote over certain interest. You know, like if you recall last week, they had a strike of 1 day, which affected the movement. it was this morning that Dangote came up with the true story of what transpired. He said that what they're demanding from him is unbearable, and he cannot subject Nigerians to extreme difficulties again in order to satisfy these marketers. What he's saying is that they wanted an indirect subsidy. You know, this subsidy, you know, is the biggest scam that has held this country back, especially as it has to do as it regards to our petroleum sector. You know, Dangote, by all standard, has monopolized the petroleum sector. These marketers have seen that there's no way they can compete with him. So they approached him and said, give us this subsidy. Let's push it to the masses. Do you understand? It was rated based on percentage that, according to them, they will be getting 75 naira per liter from what they're dictating. By the time you multiply it by the number of, you know, liters he supplied daily and times it by 1 year, it should be giving you 1.5 trillion naira. Do you understand? But they didn't give us this story. They presented Dangote to be a monopolist, a sadist, somebody who has caged the economy, without telling us that they are trying to, you know, benefit by, you know, something that will benefit them and push the suffering to Nigerians. And he said no.
And this is the lesson.
Yes.
When you hear something,
yes, now.
to hear both sides.
Both sides. So Dangote opened up the whole thing and said they can go to court and challenge it.
Okay, now there's a story I would want us to look at. Gunmen motorbikes storm baptism ceremony in Niger Republic and killed 22. Then the other one is that Ohaneze Ndibo is telling Soludo, Okachuku, and Ekunife to play by rote. But as regards the Anambra election coming up on the November.
Yes, I think what they did is actually what is expected of them. The elder statement, and when two elephants fight, the grass suffers. Ndibo na okenye ada no ewa mo na onambele ewata. So what they said is actually what they're supposed to say. But politics generally is this kind of throwing words against each other is also part of politics. Yes, because the person that carries the ball receives the biggest attack, because that is the only way the opposition will always, you know, that's the only way they think they can succeed. But I think they are missing it. Do you understand? If you want to unseat the incumbent, I think what you need to do is to come up with policies that can outsmart his own.
Stronger.
Yes, now, or come up with an argument that is constructive enough that people can, you know, reason with you, not by abusing the person and what have you. And that you cannot abuse somebody and expect the person not to abuse you back. So when people say Governor Soludo returns back or throw back stone, it's expected. You cannot abuse me and expect me to keep quiet. Do you understand? But I like the call by Ohaneze Ndibo. I pray, you know, they stop and they play by the rule. Apuga has always played by the rule, you know, of the game. We've not been violent. We've been very civil, issue campaign. But the oppositions are doing it the other way around.
Okay. Now, on the issue of this killing of 22 persons in a ceremony, you know, where baptism is being carried out.
Yes, that will tell you the porosity of our boundary, you know, not only in Nigeria, because this took place in Niger Republic. You know, when you hear killings in Nigeria, people think it is only in Nigeria that the crime is being recorded. But what is important is not that crime will not happen. Crime will always happen. Do you understand? What is important is the strategies. What are the measures to checkmate them? If crime happens and the people involved is arrested, do you understand? Somebody who intends to do such tomorrow will be afraid that he may not go scot-free. It is painful when something of this nature will happen, at the end of the day, no arrest will be carried out, and those involved will not be prosecuted. Somebody will say, okay, the society is too porous. I'll carry out my own and go scot-free. So I think the government of the Niger Republic must do everything humanly possible to identify the penetrators of this incident and then bring them to book. It will serve as a deterrent to future intenders.
All right, the last paper, but not the least this morning.
Let's take that, and that's the blueprint paper. And then we have a federal government unveils $3.14 billion FAO agri investment scheme to boost food security. Also, we have there, this time, something on a lighter note, something different anyway. Sports, World Athletics Championship. Nathaniel zooms into 400 final after 38-year wait. Wow. Excuse me. NACON clears 2025 refunds to state, urges early 2026 Hajj registration. INEC chair canvasses greater women inclusion in politics. Well, like they will say, if their husband will agree. Dangote cries out over mafia plots to kill his refinery. After Rivers emergency rule regime, let peace drive your actions. Tinubu tells Fubara lawmakers, hails stakeholders' understanding of extraordinary measures. Wike urges peace, mixed reactions, trails, IBA's 6-month tenure. CUPP demands transparency, accountability. Okay, we still have some here. 2 beheaded in renewed cross-river communal clash. Non-oil exports rise to 18.4 trillion naira. That's the much you can do there. But then let's talk about this federal government unveiling $3.14 billion. And we've seen this in other papers.
I don't know whether we noticed that everything now is in billion.
This is in billion.
And in dollars.
This one is billion in dollars.
Everything now is in billion. That means some people that have thousand don't have anything.
you don't have, if you have thousand, you don't have money now. So now tell me, federal government unveiling this amount of money when the existential threat to food security is insecurity. Isn't it going to be foolhardy that you're investing this and you've not tackled the issues of food insecurity? What's your take on that?
You see, if really they intend to tackle the problem of food scarcity, they should start with securing our farms and
bringing peace to Benue Plateau.
Yes, because there's no way to succeed in this direction without, first of all, tackling the rising cases of insecurity. Okay? And no society can succeed, under this level of insecurity.
All right.
It's only when you are free that you can go to farm, you can do other things. So let them tackle the security first before investing billions of naira.
Dollars.
All right, Dominic, we thank you so much. First things first, tackling insecurity,
sure,
to secure the farms before you can let the farmers go back to farms.
Yes.
We'd like to thank you so much, Dominic, for always being here.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And that's just about it on the press review for this morning. We thank you for watching. Up next is our discussion segment.
Don't go anywhere. The show continues after this.